you have UFOs in your sewing room? Maybe these unfinished projects are littered all over your table, or hanging off the back of chairs, or worse, hiding in the back of your closet. Are you ever going to finish them? Do you even want to finish them? In this video, I'm diving into my UFO pile and showing you my decision process for when to quit. So stick with me and I'll show you how to do it. Hi, I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. I give you tips, tricks, and strategies to help you make the quilt that you want to make. And if you like what you see, please click that subscribe button. In our quilting, we invest a lot of money, energy, and time to get that final stitch knotted. So we need to be picky with our projects, choosing only those that give us that, hell yes, I want to make this feeling. Unfortunately, once we start, there are so many opportunities, reasons, and excuses for us to stop what we're working on, toss it in a bag, and move on to something else. It becomes a UFO in the back of our closet where it can languish for weeks, months, years, even decades. Over the past 2 months, I have been pulling out and assessing many of my UFOs, then asking myself the following questions. Do I love it? Does it serve a purpose? What am I making it for? Will it challenge me? How much time do I need? How much money do I need to invest? And from the answers, I can decide whether it's a hell yes or is it time to quit. When I made my 2021 100 Days, 100 Blocks quilt, I had all sorts of scraps left over, and I did a video on how I made some 2.5-inch strips. And this past winter, I took all those strips and I cut them into bonus blocks and I sewed them all together. Some of them are square and square, some of them are crosses, but now I am so done with this fabric. I am so sick of working with it. I do have 77 blocks though, and that will make 3 baby quilts. And I do want to get started on a new stack of baby quilts for St. Michael's Hospital. But I've also promised myself, as I'm rebooting, to only work on projects that bring me joy. And I'm not sure putting these blocks together is going to do that for me. But if I do make baby quilts, I will have some quilt tops to practice my free motion quilting skills, which is something I do really want to work on. That said, I still can't summon up the excitement to work on this. But there's something I want to do even less than this, and that is edit a video. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 30-minute timer and I'm going to work on this in 30 minutes, and then I'm going to edit for 30 minutes and then come back. And I'm only going to give myself today to work on it, and if it's not done, I'll pass it on to one of my quilting sisters. In a previous session with these blocks, I have already got the blocks laid out and put in the correct orientation. So all I need to do is just grab a pile and go. I'm actually really happy I went through this because it turns out that I can sew, iron, and fold a baby quilt top in 30 minutes. So this next project I have fondly called the bathing cap. It is a ball, it is an icosido dodecahedron truncated that I took up as a challenge from one of my viewers. It's made up of 12 10-sided shapes with hexagons and squares in between them. I have fallen out of love with this project, and it is quickly heading towards the I quit column. However, it is almost done. The only thing I need to do is stuff it and put that last one on the top. I only need to put about an hour's worth of work into this. So this is going to be a yes, but it's going to be a yes right now. I'm going to put on my timer and I'm going to get this done tonight while my husband's watching YouTube videos. This is a perfect place for me to use up my batting scraps. You'll just be amazed at how much gets in this ball. I've used up half a bag. I will continue to stuff it until I put on that last stitch. And it took me just over an hour. What do you think? This next UFO is a Halloween project and is probably my very first quilt. In fact, I even forgot that I had made it. We found it in a storage box last year, and it is not my favorite project. This was made when I had no clue how to put together a quilt. So the piecing's bad. You can see my stitching on the binding is horrible. The part of this project that I like the most is that I still have my notes of what I was going to do. I would normally just pass on this one, but I am tied to it because of legacy. This is my first quilting project, and I think I owe it to myself to give it one last try to see whether I can get it through. So this is a very reluctant yes. What still needs to be done is I need to make the applique for 4 of the squares. I've already done 2. So I need to spend an evening taking the shape, transferring it to some Flexi Fuse. Then I roughly cut them out and then I fuse it to the fabric. And then I go and do a fine cut around all the details. And then I fuse those shapes to the quilt. And then I will need to raw edge applique them to the quilt and then finish off the quilting. So now I've ironed on all the pieces, and though I kind of like it, I am really struck by how much I do not like it. It's not going to be a blanket, it's just going to be a wall hanging, and I'm not this kitty type of person for Halloween. And it's going to take me at least a half a day to finish off quilting this. It's just not doing it for me, and I don't think I need to push it any farther or justify it any farther. It's time to quit. This is an orphan block pile. I'm pretty sure it's like 2017. It was a letter class that I did with Cheryl Arkinson at Quilts of the Creek. And it spells the phrase, "Life is good." This is important to me. I love it because this is a saying that my grandmother used to say. If you asked her how her day was going, she would say, "Life is good." But the problem is that I do not have this blue, and it's just gonna make a pillow. And I don't want another pillow. I've said that before. And I've got 2 letters that are the same, and there's not a lot of contrast in this. So I think I can do this better. I like the idea of it. Having a blue pillow made out of this scrap is not the thing. I've got to separate the memories of my grandmother with these blocks. I don't want to invest any more money in it. I don't really want to invest any more time in it. And I don't have a place for this to go. So it's time to quit this one. Last year, I purchased these wovens in colors that just make my heart sing. And I decided that I would use them for the 2022 100 Days, 100 Blocks Sew-Along. And then I would use the finished quilt as a background in my studio. Plus, I also gave myself the challenge of using the template method for the blocks. I prepared the blocks ahead of time so I could just make blocks in between other tasks. Like easy peasy, right? Well, 1 year later, I just hate these blocks. I found that the wovens were too soft to work with, and the templates are way too fussy for me, and I just hated the results. I have also already made this pattern once, so I have absolutely zero qualms about saying it's time to quit. Quite frankly, it's the easiest decision I have made all month. This quilt top came to me around 2017 with 2 others. My book club buddy Barb had found them in an attic and believed that her grandmother had made them many, many years ago. 2 years ago, I quilted the one that was in the best shape. Barb absolutely loved it. She was so excited to share it with her daughter and her sister. So I've been wanting to make her another one ever since. However, I've been avoiding this one because of the damage in the blocks along the sides. And I really had no appetite to invest any time to repair it. So a couple of weeks ago, I was out walking with Mando and I was wrestling with this problem when I realized that this quilt top has been in hiding for over 60 years. I doubt anyone even knows what this looks like, let alone what size it is. And it's so much more important that it's quilted and enjoyed than saving those frayed bits of cloth that can be found elsewhere in the top. So I decided to make the quilt smaller, and this project became a hell yes. So I loaded it onto my long arm and found a pantograph that I liked. It didn't take me more than 3 days to work on it here and there. Then I trimmed off all those bad bits. I added a binding. This might have been the tightest binding chicken that I've ever played, and I gave it to her at our next book club meeting. If you have followed my QuiltCon adventures, then you probably know the story of how I met Mary Fons. Back in 2017, after a trip from hell to get there, I dragged myself into her classroom, late, tired, and without any luggage. And Mary just gathered me in and set me right. Her workshop was transformative for me, and I've been hanging on to these blocks from her workshop ever since. That said, I'm not really interested in making a quilt out of these blocks. They have a partial seam in the middle, and since these were the first ones that I had ever attempted, they're not done especially well. Some of my split triangle blocks are in the wrong orientation, and truly I'm not fond of high contrast red and white quilts. So it sounds like it's time to quit this one. However, these blocks are very special to me, and I don't want to part with them. So how do I turn this into a hell yes? Well, I'm going to frame 2 of them. And this is pretty easy to do, and I made a whole video about it here. One will hang at my studio, and one in my sewing room to always remind me of Mary and her class. Now, this little project has been sitting for over 5 years. It was originally a block swap at my guild, and I liked the block so much I cut up 1,000 pieces. But after the enthusiasm of the swap, I've never touched it again. Honestly, I was going into this one fully prepared to call it quits. It's a true orphan with no purpose or destination. It's monochromatic and pink, and all the blocks are the same. The usual things I stay away from. But I did challenge myself to spend 30 minutes just finishing off the prepared blocks, just to be sure. I put on my timer, and surprise, surprise, with every seam I sewed, it evolved into a hell yes. And not only did I work on making flying geese, as many as my fabric would allow, I pulled out some other pinks from my stash to make more. Maybe I went a little bit overboard, but that's what a hell yes will do. Now I just need to figure out a layout. Stay tuned. So my next pile of blocks are blocks that I won in my Quilt Guild's Block Lotto Challenge, but this is from many, many years ago. I think it's probably from 2017 as well. My thought was I would turn them into pillows for Halloween, but I'm out of the pillow phase. It's a definite no for pillows. But now that I know how quickly I can sew blocks together, I'm thinking this is a quilt. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 3 by 4. And what I could do some fun things in the background, turning these into monsters or monster heads, and with some free motion quilting designs. So funny enough, this has turned from a definite no into a yes. I'm just going to put them up on my board and spend the next half hour putting them together because I know I can do that. So this is a yes. I have one last one to look through. I just discovered this. It was in a box with these, and this is the 12-inch Clammy by Latifa Safar. This was a COVID purchase. It is a fairly versatile ruler. It can make all the different shapes. You can see them right here. The clam, a half moon, a quarter, a circle, all sorts of things. Do I love it? No. The clam is not a shape I go with very often. My idea for this was that my big pieces of scrap I would cut into clam shells and just work at it over time until I got a stack. And I have to have the dimensions of the project right from the beginning. It's not something that I can add to the sides. I need to know exactly what I'm doing from the beginning. Do I have the skills to do it? I do have the skills to do it. I need to invest a lot of time into this project, and I need to dive into my stash to get more fabric to go with it. And as I'm laying this out, it is not doing anything for me. My fabrics, scraps all seem to have a very similar value. I'd have to go in and pull out very strategically what I was going to do. And the other thing is this 12-inch size is not good for me. I save squares of fabric 10-inch, that's just like a layer cake. And for this 12-inch clammy, you need pieces of fabric 13 inches wide. So if I was ever going to do the clamshell, I would be doing either the 8-inch or the 10-inch size. So I think this is a no. It's just not for me. I'm just gonna say, you know, I bought it impulsively during COVID, even though part of me is saying, hey, gee, I could use this for this or this or this. No, I just have to accept that this is not the right ruler for my stash. I have found this process very rewarding. Between the items I reimagined, the ones I finished, to the ones I was able to cut the cord and say no more. It has served me well to have these projects off the to-do list. I still have some more UFOs to work through, so stay tuned as I finish off those quilts. If you are just getting back into sewing, check out my last video on rebooting. And if you are new here, check out my tips and tricks playlist. Take care, and I'll see you next time.